they have made a home house.
Exactly. They found us. It's time to go.
They found us.
Leave everything behind.
You know what they haven't found, though?
What?
Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to PixelLit. My name is Kevin. With me, as always, is Phil.
Hello.
And Happy New Year's Eve, everyone.
Happy New Year's Eve. Happy New Year's Eve, Kevin.
You too, Phil. I am happy that you, our listening audience, is deciding to spend New Year's with us, PixelLit, as we talk about our games of the year 2021.
2021. What a year.
That is the year, right?
It is. Yeah.
Check my phone. Yes.
Yes.
It is 2021.
It's important.
Common era.
Yeah. It's very important to double check. So I don't blame you. But yes,
it is year 2 PC post COVID.
Yes.
Or no. It would actually, since we're not post COVID, I would call it CD. COVID Domine.
Right. The year of our COVID. I mean, that's kind of what it is, isn't it? Like it's the new BCAD. Like everything's different now.
Let's just start the calendar. Let's go back to the days of yore, when they basically just started the calendar over whenever a new king.
Right, exactly. I mean, it might as well. King COVID, sure. I got my third shot. My cell phone's acting wonky. Let's do it.
I'm triple boosted.
Yeah, baby.
You know, I got my 5G shot.
Yeah. I've got all that good internet.
So today, Phil and I are going to talk about our games of the year, which is, it's always tough for us, for guys like us, because we rarely keep up with the most recent games.
Yeah.
We are 30 or 40 years old, and we do not have time.
It's not the same anymore.
It's not the same anymore.
Yeah.
We can't keep up. Our backlogs
are
longer than most people.
I'm just trying to get my backlog done. That's what my video reviews on YouTube have been. It's just like, here are the games I'm playing.
Yeah.
And some of them are new, some of them aren't. But yeah. But,
oh boy.
So this is going to make for, I guess what Kevin's trying to say is this is going to make for kind of an unusual games of the year list. It's probably not going to echo, your Polygons and your Kotakus and everything like that.
Yeah, don't expect to necessarily line up with us on all of these picks. No. I actually did. This is probably the most games that I played in the year they came out in my entire life.
It's usually the other way around. In years gone by, I've been more on top of the newer games.
Yeah. Normally I'm like, hey, have you heard of this game from 17 years?
Right. And this year, it's been crazy. You've been like, yeah, but I've been playing this one game that just came out, and then I got the other one that like, you have been really on top of it lately. So you're probably the one that's going to be a little more. The games that a lot of the games I have played from this year are like indie games that got sent to me. And I was like, well, I got this. I guess I'll try it out. Let's see what that's all about. Got this
in the mail.
But
when they're sent to you, do they actually come in the mail, or is it?
No, I just get a code in my email.
Oh,
and they'll be like, hey,
that's no fun.
You know that YouTube channel that you only update for manically for 2 months, and then you forget about it for a year, and then you do it again for 2 or 3 months, and then you forget about it for another year.
Here's a code.
Here's a code if you want to talk about our game.
If you want to talk about a twin stick shooter,
right? We these are Smurfs. We illegally copied these
Smurf twin stick shooter.
Yeah. And it's a horror game somehow.
You play as Papa Smurf.
Yeah.
And all the Smurfs are dead.
All of them are dead except for Papa Smurf.
He's seeking vengeance.
He's seeking vengeance, and
it's Smurf and Punisher together.
Yeah.
Or as the game is titled, Smunisher.
I'm gonna kick their Smurfing asses. Good God.
It's a revenge tale.
So it has been, but I do have a couple of weird pieces on this list, and a couple of more of the standard stuff. But yeah, let's get started.
Let's get into it.
You played a few more than I did, so why don't you start it off?
Yeah. I'll start with round one. Round one fights. I'll start with my overall game of the year.
Okay.
My list is not in any order, but my overall game of the year just happens to be the first thing on the list because it's my overall game of the year.
Okay.
So, Death's Door.
Okay. That was your game of the year.
It was my game of the year.
Okay.
And I think a lot of people will probably look at me like, are you sure? Are you sure it's a game of the year? Because it's nowhere near a AAA game.
Right.
It's by Acid Nerve. Their previous title was Titan Souls. And it's an adorable game in which you play as this little crow, Grim Reaper. And it's your job to collect souls that need to be transported to the other side. And basically the inciting incident is you go to collect a great soul and it gets away from you. The soul that runs away because some older crow Grim Reaper steals it from you, and you have to find a way to get it back. And your whole adventure is trying to find a way to get this great soul back.
What now is this? What the style of gameplay is it?
I would call it a Zelda-like.
Okay.
It is a isometric, not quite top down, isometric hack and slash dungeon crawler style game where you have very much in the vein of Zelda, also a little bit in the vein of Dark Souls, where you're opening up shortcuts back around to the bonfire,
right
so to speak. So it's got both of those elements in them. It's just such a well presented game. Like every little inch of it is very thoughtfully constructed from the beginning to the end, and the narrative that it shows you over the course of the game is beautiful. It's this beautiful narrative about death positivity and really reinforcing the idea that death is natural, and it's a natural occurring thing. It's not something to run away from. It's something that life ultimately needs to embrace.
Right.
And it shows the side effects of things staying alive for too long, basically, or the corruption that happens when things stay alive past their expiration date, so to speak.
Right. That's nice. I love that theme. That's such a terrific theme. We need to see it more. It's
a great theme and a cute little package. I cannot recommend Death's Door enough. Now, that being said, it can be I didn't find it too difficult. It can be a little bit hard, but even at its hardest, it only took me 10 hours to beat the game.
Okay.
So even with levels or enemies that I felt like, I gotta keep doing this over and over again, it still only took me about 10 hours. And there's more
a nice
stuff.
Size. Yeah,
it's a nice size. There's more stuff that you can do. There's like a true ending and all that. But the amount of effort that you have to put in to get the additional endings is, I thought, like a little beyond the pale for me.
Right.
I was happy with the way it ended, and
I
was like, yeah, okay. I can close the book on this one.
You're like the second or third person to bring that one up, and the second or third person whose opinion on games I respect to bring that one up. So I think it's on my wish list. I'll have to take a look. That looks
definitely take a look.
Right.
Number one game of the year, Death's Door.
Okay, I'm not gonna do my game of the year yet because I think it overlaps with one that you have.
Sure.
So we'll get to that later when we get into the ones that you and I have both played.
Yeah.
But I will play with the format just a little bit by saying that my one of my games of the year this year was Heroquest. Which anybody who's following me on Twitter knows that I've been going apeshit over. It is not a video game.
Hey, that's not a video game.
It's not a video game. It is a remake that Hasbro did of a classic. I want to say the board game came out in 1990. It was one of the early boxed board game Games Workshop sorts of things. You know, where you've got 4 players and a dungeon master. It is the lightest of D&D board game lights that you can find. And finding this game nowadays, before they re-released it, would cost you like $300 or $400 on eBay if you wanted the whole set, which gets frustrating when you think to yourself, I used to have this. It is the perfect gateway drug into heavier tabletop role-playing games, and God forbid miniature painting. It is huge. I backed it on Hasbro's Kickstarter clone when they did it, and the idea that Hasbro even has one of those, that's a whole thing. That's a whole fucking thing. But and honestly, I wouldn't have I don't back anything they do, except I saw Heroquest and I went, fuck, they got me.
I gotta back
they
that.
got me.
Yeah.
And not only is it a full re-release of the core board game and the 2 expansions that it came out with in the 90s, but they have come up with new classes, like 3 books of new adventures, like hours and hours. Oh yeah. And it cost me, for the whole thing, the whole kit and caboodle, I think I paid $175 for it, which is no small amount of change. But when you consider it includes like 120 something miniatures.
Yeah.
It's huge. I'm going to be painting this thing forever. I've just started painting. Here, I'll show you. I've been painting the little pieces, and
is that a little Necronomicon or something?
Yeah, a little wizard's desk and a little rack, you know, and I'm just
torture rack.
Oh, it's so much fun, and little alchemist's table, and just having so much fun with painting them. And the game is true to the original, which is really simple. It is a very simple game, but it does not make it less fun, especially if you're playing. Frankly, so many games can get so complicated and so complex. Like, I'm a huge fan of Warhammer Quest. I love Warhammer Quest, but I'm not going to sit down with my girlfriend or with my, my lesser nerdy friends, and try to explain to them how, because it's a pretty complicated game, all things considered. So Heroquest is literally a game you can sit down and go, okay, you roll, you move, here, roll a couple of dice, you hit that guy, and it's pretty straightforward. It's a great game for when you just want to sit around drinking beer with your friends and play some cool dungeons. And
it's like D&D on the rails.
Exactly. And there's nothing wrong with that, and it's extra pretty now. It's got hours upon hours of new gameplay in it. And
it seems like it. I have a feeling that if it does continue to be successful, it just becomes like, oh yeah, here's even more, like, just continually releasing content.
I mean, it's really easy to come up with your own material for it. They give you like a blank map and say, here, make your own thing, and
sure,
it's great. It's terrific for anybody who's got kids who might be interested in watching you play D&D, and it's a little complicated for them. I bought this game when I was 8, 9, and I knew how to play it. It was easy to play. It's and it was what started the whole thing for me. And on top of that, it has an app that will play the Dungeon Master. So if you and your friends just want to sit down and play together, the app will take over as the bad guy for you. Which is pretty terrific. And that also means you can just play it by yourself if you're lonely and just want to break out the toys, which every now and then you do. So that is absolutely one of my games of the year. I love it. I'm breaking it out with some friends next weekend, and when we are at PAX Unplugged, I fully intend on bringing it, and you and I will
bring it.
play some Heroquest.
I believe Hess has done at least one of the monsters from Heroquest on Oops All Monsters.
On Oops All Monsters. They did it. Well, it's kind of hilarious because it is called a Femir, and it's this weird one-eyed lizard thing. It's one of the only things that they changed in the update. They took the femur out and turned it into what they call an abomination, which is like a fish creature. Just to everything's the same. It just looks different.
Okay.
It's I don't know why they did it, but I think partially because just to change up the bad guys, because
I feel like is the femur close to something like a D&D, like a D&D monster?
I don't think it is. I think it was their own thing, but it was basically you'd have goblins, you'd have orcs, and then you have femurs, and they're like the next step up. And I think it just you're like, okay, more greenskins that I'm fighting. Right. So it feels like they just aesthetically
changed it up,
swapped it up.
Yeah. Gave
it a little more of a Lovecraftian vibe. It's got some very fishy tendencies, but shout out to friend of the cast, Hess, with Oops All Monsters, which you guys absolutely should be listening to. It is a great podcast.
That is a great show. Yeah.
All right, my friend.
All right. Heroquest. I'll have to check that out.
It's just good, clean fun.
So my next game is one. All right. So I haven't beaten it, but whatever. I'm actually pretty close to beating it now. And my next game on my list is Returnal. And Returnal was actually it was kind of a candidate for my overall game of the year for a long time. But then I realized, well, I don't think I can in good conscience slot it up there because at the time I hadn't even beaten the second boss, I hadn't even beaten the second level of 6. So Returnal is a rogue like / light. It kind of has some elements that might push it more towards being a roguelite. But it is it is a AAA style roguelike with very high-end presentation.
It's gorgeous. It's an absolutely beautiful
gorgeous. It runs so fast. It's a PS5 exclusive. It runs so fast, so smooth. You have so many particles on the screen at any given time, because not only is it a roguelike, but it's also a bullet hell.
Mm-hmm.
So all of the enemies in the game shoot these bullets that kind of end up being these bullet hell patterns. So your entire screen ends up being filled with enemy bullets, and you got to dodge, and you got to dash, and you got to dive, and you got to dodge a wrench.
It sounds like the perfect kind of thing to show off what the PS5 is capable of.
It is totally. It is. It was the first game that I played, and even with some of the other releases, it's still one of the only games that I feel really pushed the PS5 to its this early on. Be like, hey, here's PS5 can do all this awesome stuff. And and some people will say, well, what about Ratchet and Clank? And I've played a little bit of Ratchet and Clank, A Rift Apart so far, and that's a gorgeous game. I haven't played enough of it to put it on my list yet. Retroactively, maybe it might end up on this list. But for now, Returnal it is so good. And the less you know about the story, and there's a kind of an interesting story underneath all of it, the better. Because it inherently has to do with a time loop. And I want to declare 2021 the year of the time loop.
It's a popular mechanic this year, isn't it?
And 3 of the games on my list have time loops in them.
You're just a Groundhog's Day fanatic is what you are.
And a game that appeared on a bunch of other people's lists that I didn't get a chance to play, The Forgotten City, also had a time loop in it.
Right.
And then, what was it? The Outer Wilds. Spoilers for The Outer Wilds. The Outer Wilds, it has a time loop. It's not really spoilers. You find that out.
No,
in
you find
the
out
first
pretty quick. Yeah.
You find that out really early on. Whatever. I know some people get upset about talking too much about Outer Wilds, but the Outer Wilds DLC came out this year, so
I haven't played that and I need to check it out because
it feels like a Phil game.
It really does, doesn't it?
Yeah, I could see why people loved it. I kind of bounced off of it when it initially came out because I didn't like the spaceship controls. They were just annoying enough for me to be like, this is a chore.
Yeah.
So yeah, Returnal feels great to play. A lot of neat guns that you pick up throughout your runs. It's a true roguelike in the sense that you get your buffs, you get your debuffs. There is almost no progression between runs.
Oh, okay.
Almost no. There is once you beat a boss, you can shortcut to the next area.
Right.
Which is like other roguelikes, it would be like all or nothing. So that's why I think that pushes it towards roguelite.
Sure.
There are some permanent upgrades, but all the upgrades that you get in the game are they're traversal upgrades. It's more like a Metroidvania type of thought where it's like, well, now you can just go to this place now that you couldn't before.
Right.
It's not like, oh, your attack power is permanently increased. So stat upgrades, it's not a thing. So if you are into roguelikes or roguelites, and you like, bullet hell type shooters, beautiful bullet hell type shooters, I recommend Returnal.
Very nice.
It's totally worth it. And the most recent update, I don't know if it's the most recent update, but one of the more recent updates added save states to the game, a kind of save state. When the game first came out, you couldn't save it in the middle of your run. So, and a run in Returnal can take hours.
Wow. Wow. Okay. So yeah, that's helpful.
So that's helpful. It's helped me a lot in getting back into it.
Okay.
Cheers. We drank at the same time.
Yeah, that was always a good sign.
Yeah.
What are you drinking? You're drinking your water?
I'm drinking I ran out of my flat water, and then there was a couple cans of bubbly water. I have this terrible habit of like opening a can of bubbly water, drinking like half of it, and then I'll go downstairs for some reason and I'll grab another can and I'll bring it back.
I'm very bad about that, specifically with bubbly water. It's true. I remember I was in Germany a couple of years back, and one of the guys said in Germany sparkling water over there in Europe in general is way more popular than it is over here.
It's like their default.
Yeah. And the Germans they say, would you like your water flat or with gas? And the first time they did that, I just smiled. I didn't make fun. I was just laughing. And our host, he said, what's so funny? And I said, with gas. That's just such a funny, of course it makes sense, but it's a funny way of putting it. And he said, well, what do you guys call it? And I said, and without thinking about it, I just went, bubbly water. I guess yours is better. With gas sounds way better than bubbly water.
I mean, it's also you can also call it soda water.
Sure.
I mean,
sure.
That's the, but yeah, with gas, mit gas, or whatever the German word for gas is. Is it gas? I think
it's
remember.
Like gassen, something like that.
Yeah,
it's usually a safe bet. We have very.
Would you like it with gas? And I'm like, I would like it with bubbles.
Bubblies, please.
Bubblies,
because I'm 10. Okay.
Well, kids usually hate it though. That's the thing. Kids usually hate bubbly water
because it hurts.
It hurts.
Yeah.
I like the pain.
I mean, that's just, they haven't learned to love the pain yet.
They haven't learned it.
That's the trouble with kids in general.
That's the trouble with kids these days.
That sounded really foreboding. That sounded like something Su Shang would say.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I will pick up there. My next game of the year is this is another one that just tapped into the nostalgia of this old man who has got less than a year before he hits 40. Actraiser Renaissance. Which, we actually had a discussion about this after we recorded an episode. I had no idea that anyone had rebooted Actraiser, which is to this day one of my favorite games of all time. Not just my favorite SNES game or my favorite, whatever. It is one of my favorite games of all time. I have a lot of fond memories of that game. And you just kind of casually mentioned, you're like, oh yeah, there's a reboot, and I lost my freaking mind.
Lost your mind.
I absolutely lost my mind, and then all of a sudden I look and it was like, Kevin has purchased a copy for you. I was like, God damn you, Kevin! Don't be thoughtful now. I don't have time for you being thoughtful. My God, man. So I just drowned in that for a lot of hours, which is hilarious considering you could beat the original SNES Actraiser in an afternoon. It is not a long game. It was revolutionary for its time because it was one of the earliest games to combine a strategy city builder with a action element. But it didn't take long to finish overall. But they added a bunch of new stuff to it.
A bunch of stuff. I was playing it when I bought it for myself. I was playing it all evening out, and I was like still in the first world.
Yeah. Yeah. It took, and then on top of adding stuff into the existing levels, they added a whole new world at the end for you to, because for anyone who hasn't played it, Actraiser, you're literally playing a god who is converting all these people and protecting them from these evil demons and everything. And there is a new world. I thought I'd beat the game, and I was like, wow, that took a lot longer than I expected, but what a satisfying journey I've been on. And they're like, oh, here's a whole new world for you to convert and all that shit. And it was kind of funny though, because in 2019, a game called Soul Serif came out, which was essentially a spiritual successor.
Yeah.
And it was terrible. For a lot of reasons, but one of the things that stood out to me was that they added in a tower defense mechanic for the strategy, which felt completely unnecessary. And then when I started playing the reboot of Actraiser, they had also added the tower defense mechanic, but for whatever reason, it didn't bother me as much. In fact, I found myself enjoying it, and I couldn't figure out why. And so I sat down and I did a whole video on this. If you guys are interested, check out youtube.com/Soul
Serif versus Actraiser.
That's right.
So
and
you compare the two.
And long story short, Actraiser is it's a better made game. The tower defense is more thoughtful. It's just overall a way better game. And it tapped into the nostalgia factor for me, while also being a game that I believe that without my pre-existing knowledge of it, I still would have played and enjoyed and really gotten a kick out of. I thought they did a really, really good job with it. It is a much more thoughtful game. It's a little more plodding. It does go a little slower, like you mentioned. But I found it very relaxing and very enjoyable all the way through. I did have a call out to anybody in the video that I will repeat here. I wonder what younger people think of this game, because it does it offer something new that they're actually enjoying, or do they look at this and go, this is such an old style game, this sucks, why would I play this?
Right.
I'm sure there'll be a billion different answers, but I'd be very curious.
There'll be a billion opinions on that.
Oh, absolutely. You ask 5 gamers one question, you'll get 25 answers. So that's just how it's going to work. But yeah, it was good for the nostalgia part. It was good for just good old fashioned gaming. I loved it. Actraiser Renaissance. I highly recommend it. Any of the old grognards out in the audience, pick it up. It was worth the go.
All right. So for my next entry,
pick it up.
I'm gonna mix it up a little bit, and I'm going to talk about Loop Hero. Loop Hero is, I want to say it's a Russian developer originally. It is really hard to explain, but basically the game kind of plays itself.
Huh.
The best way I thought of it is, imagine you are the dungeon master and the computer is the player character.
That's interesting. Okay.
I feel like that's kind of like the best way to explain it. So basically you have there's this little guy on the screen, and he's walking around a loop, the titular loop in Loop Hero.
Yeah.
And you, as the player, you don't control him. You control how fast time passes, and you control what is adjacent to the road that he is walking on. And each thing that you put down might have a positive effect or it might have a negative effect. And you don't I don't think you necessarily know right away if they all are positive or negative. So basically, let's say the first card, it's because it's also a card builder, card deck that they're building. The first card you play, the first tile you play, is a graveyard. So you put a graveyard down, and that means every day or something, the graveyard is going to spawn skeletons on that tile, on the road tile next to it. So your little dude is going to walk around, and when he hits that tile, there's a combat encounter.
Okay.
And you have no control over any of it. It's just playing on itself. So basically, your hero either wins or loses and then continues on. So you have to strategically build all your tiles to be like, eventually you get to a point where in the first boss, you have like, before the first boss, there's like a mini boss where you have like a Dracula's castle or vampire's castle or something, and you put that down, and then you fight a vampire. And then if you have town cards that you put adjacent to the vampire's castle, they become like, instead of towns, they become ruined towns, and they have ghouls in them and bandits and stuff like that.
That sounds
and
awesome.
Also all these cards have these different interplays with each other. And so it's a deck building roguelike strategy simulation D&D style game. It is one of those, it's like a genre unto itself. So because it was so, when I got it, I started playing it. I was like, oh, I'll give this a try. I'll check it out. 6 hours later,
right?
I had just been like letting it get, like, because there's ways you can set up the loop so that your dude just keeps going around and around, and you can just walk away.
Right. Oh wow.
So every time your dude dies, the world is reset. You get a new road. So some roads are longer, some roads are shorter. Basically you have to, you start rebuilding the stuff around the road. Eventually you get to a point where you face off against one of the bosses, you beat the boss. I think there's 3 acts in total. And then at the end of each act, there's a boss. So it's worth checking out.
That was already on my wish list, but the way you're describing, that sounds freaking fun.
It is a, in like a couple years, I'm going to check your Steam profile. It's one of those games where it's like Loop Hero 200 hours,
right,
or something like that.
Holy cow, that sounds awesome.
Oh, and I didn't even mention the aesthetic. Is the graphics are all I want to say EGA style computer graphics, where not VGA but EGA, which was like the step before it, where it had slightly fewer colors. I can't remember what each of the color sets were, but it has like, it uses like a lot of teals and oranges and stuff like that. And it has like the old text on it that would be rendered for, it's like, it feels like a game from 1987 or 88 that
it's only $9
never got released
right now. I'm gonna have to go ahead.
It's only $9. Are you buying it right now?
I'm gonna buy it. $9, man. I bought fucking Dragon Age Inquisition. It was $5, and I was like, well, goodbye.
Probably never playing this, but
no, gotta have it.
Gotta have it. It's only $5.
No, this looks tight. This looks like a really fun game.
Yeah, I might start playing it after we hang up.
That's space facts. I'm probably gonna play this game.
Yeah,
this looks solid. Okay, cool, cool.
Cool.
You got me sold. Damn it. There's another one.
There's another one for the list.
On the backlog. All right. Loop Hero. Damn. All right. Got me sold. Okay. I'm gonna pull out of this obscure nostalgic nosedive that my list is going into, at least for a moment, to talk about It Takes Two.
Oh, the Video Game Awards Game of the Year. It Takes Two,
and it earned it. It's it's in a world full of video games that are very. I mean, we've. It's a long way from the early to mid aughts. We take ourselves a little less seriously these days.
Yeah.
Which thank God for that.
Right.
But there's still, we're still surrounded by the big, damn, serious, dark games everywhere we look. And hey, don't get me wrong. Love those games. I was raised on those games. I'm always going to be good with those games. But, it's just nice to play a game that's just all about joy for a little while.
Just a little bit, yeah.
It Takes Two, for anyone who hasn't played it, is a 2-player couch co-op game. Me and my fiance sat down and played this game. She is not a gamer. And we never finished it, but we just sat there laughing and shouting and hooting and hollering. You play a couple of parents, and it's this big moment where you're getting a divorce, and your daughter sees how unhappy you are with each other and wishes that you could be more like her dolls, and poof, you turn into her dolls, and you have to make it back into the house to her to somehow undo this curse. And it is a big, like, platformer spectacle game. It is, first off, it's fucking gorgeous. It is a beautiful game. And it is huge. It feels huge when you're doing roller coaster style loop-de-loops and jumping off of giant things, and you feel it. You feel it in your guts. The way that you do with almost no games. It has that. Everything feels very visceral. It feels like a lot of fun. You're gonna scream and shout, and it's just fantastic. The bosses are super clever. And a lot of fun, and it's very forgiving too. The game is very forgiving. Sure. Like I said, my fiance Emily, she doesn't play video games very much, but we got through several bosses, and just life happened, and we just weren't able to play as much anymore. It had nothing to do with the game itself. It is just a marvelously fun game. If you have a significant other or a friend or something like that you like to play video games with, this is the kind of game that you're just going to sit and it's what video games were meant to be about. It took me back to being a kid playing, Mario Brothers with my friends or Street Fighter or something like that. And everyone's shouting and, acting like a bunch of big kids, playing this game. It takes you back to that old feeling. Yeah. It's fantastic. I can't recommend it enough. I absolutely freaking loved it. And I think anybody who enjoys couch co-op in general is going to absolutely blow a gasket over this game. It's so good. It's just so good.
What's the developer? Wasn't their previous game the one where it was also a couch co-op where you play as two guys trying to escape prison?
Was it them? Hold on, I forget what that one's called. A Way Out. Yeah, that was them. Yeah. Oh, that's fantastic. Yeah, it's definitely it's not quite as grim as A Way Out. But it's the same. Like, yeah, these people are good. These people are really very good at 2-player experiences where it's more than just, look, we all love sitting down playing Streets of Rage, with a friend. Yeah. We all love sitting down and just beating up some people and stuff like that. These guys are just fantastic at creating experiences and puzzles that are specifically for two of you to put your head together and figure out. So I didn't know that, but that is no surprise that they also developed that one.
Okay, so the guy, the game director and designer who kind of runs the company, his three games are Brothers, A Tale of Two Sons, A Way Out, and It Takes Two.
Well, fuck. I mean, there it is. God. Well, yeah, and that's again not a surprise, because while I said this is a fun, kind of spectacle experience, it has a lot of heart. It has some incredibly sweet moments. It deals with serious topics, but in a fun way. It didn't, at least as far as we played, it did not bring me to the point of losing my shit and sobbing over my keyboard the way that Brothers: A Tale of Two Sons did. That one, that's a rare one indeed. But man, does this guy know how to do the two-person experience, which is becoming less and less with games, sadly, these days. Most things, if it is a multi-person experience, it's a multiplayer thing, like a massive multiplayer thing. Yeah. So I can't recommend it enough. If you got a friend that you want to sit down, I think 10, 12 hours, if that, it's a great experience. I highly recommend it. It Takes Two. It's fantastic.
Cool. All right. My next one is Deathloop.
Oh, yeah. You loved this one. I remember this.
Deathloop is by Arcane. And Arcane is probably best known for making the Dishonored series. Mm-hmm. They also made Prey. They just have a long list of really neat games. What was it? There was like a Heroes of Might and Magic game that they made it was basically it was before Dishonored. It wasn't supposed to be of Might. It wasn't supposed to be like of Might and Magic property. It was supposed to be its own thing, and then the publisher's like, we're gonna slap of Might and Magic on it. Like, all right. So Deathloop is their most recent game. Came out of Arcane Lyon, and it actually won Best Game Direction at the Game Awards, which I'm really happy for the director of the game. He seems like a really neat guy. So basically, like a few of the other last two games I've talked about, it is a time loop game. Yeah. You play as a guy named Colt, who is the former head of security for this island that has been found because it has an anomaly on it, some sort of time anomaly. And some scientists have created a device that controls it and allows time to just keep looping for one day over and over again. And you, Colt, wake up one morning. You don't remember anything at all. But you start to remember your day-to-day experiences, whereas everybody else on the island, except for one other person, their memory resets every day. So it's this big clockwork puzzle. The only way to end the loop is to kill the 8 visionaries that are in charge of the island, because the device is coded to all of them. So all the 8 visionaries have to die within one day. So the entire game is like, it's an FPS, but it's also an immersive sim and a little bit of a mystery puzzle game, because you have to investigate where people are going to be, the specific characters are going to be throughout the day, and put together the one way that is going to work. Like, all right, well, at this place in the morning, this person's here, so I can kill this person, and I get this information from about this person for later at night, yada yada yada. So it's a really neat game. I loved all the spit and polish that they put into it. It's got this really cool 1960s spy aesthetic, and I can't say enough good things about it, because The voice actors. I love the voice actors. So there's the character Colt. He has just such a charming voice actor. All of his lines are read with this like, it's like almost like amusement of like the situation he's in, because every time he dies, he just starts his loop over and over again. And the main antagonist of the game is this woman, Juliana, who also remembers day to day. She's the only other person on the island that remembers things day to day. No matter how many loops have passed. So Juliana has a tremendous voice actor. Colt, tremendous voice actor. They were both nominated for Best Voice Actor at the Game Awards. And they didn't ultimately win it because, of course, that award went to Maggie, I believe it's Maggie Robertson, who voiced Lady Demetress.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. Even though it wasn't her fucking voice we were interested in. She was wonderful, though.
She was wonderful. But yeah, Deathloop. Great game. If you like arcane games,
which you do,
I do. I love arcane games. Definitely check it out if you're into arcane games. Just go into it knowing that it's a little less. I said this to somebody else. I would say if Prey represents arcane at like 100% of its arcaneness, like with all the stuff, and then Deathloop is. It's lower than that.
Okay.
It's like a 75 to 80% of their arcaneness. And I only say that because it's not as much of the immersive sim that you probably would have expected if you're coming off of it from Prey.
Right.
So anyway, Deathloop, great game. It's on my list for this year. Yep.
Let's see. Let's pick up back to my random ass indie games. Chernobylite.
What is Chernobylite?
Chernobylite is a weird roguelike kind of strategy action thing. It's this weird mesh of all of those lovely genres that I enjoy so much. And you play this survivor in the middle of Chernobyl, the ruins of Chernobyl, which the studio actually faithfully recreated. I think they droned Chernobyl, and it's a Polish or a Russian developer, and they droned Chernobyl and they recreated the world. And you basically, it's a crafting survival element to it. You've got to choose your mission every day. Today I'm going to go out here. There's a lot of food out in this area, so I'm going to go get food. It had a lot of this War of Mine kind of vibes to it. It's very tough. It's very gritty. You gather this collection of people over time and meet other people. Different people are good at different things, and you start delegating orders out to them. And I remember playing it, and of course there's like a weird horror element of it. Like there are these weird ghosts of the past of Chernobyl that wander the ruins. And I remember playing it at first and being like, this is a lot. I don't know about this. And then I sneezed and 20 hours passed, and I was like, son of a bitch. I kept coming back to it. It was it's not perfect. It's got a lot of little bugs, the stuff that you're used to if you love indie games as much as I do.
Sure.
And it's not always the prettiest game, but God, it's engaging, and the characters you meet are really interesting. You have to train and do some stealth. I went with a more stealth element because it was just safer. Getting shot is not something that you just shake off. So it has all of those kind of really harsh, realistic survival vibes that you grow to expect from these games. Right. There are side quests and main quests, and you can make this game last a damn long time if you want to.
Right.
I do the thing that I remember Jesse Cox talking about doing this, a similar thing. And he and I do play these games the same way, where you're just so wrapped up in all the side shit that by the time you go, oh, right, I should get a couple of main missions out of the way, you're so overpowered by the time you get back to those.
Yes.
And that's how I played through this game. It's a terrific one. It's a weird one. It's not gonna, I don't think it's gonna be in a lot of people's Game of the Year lists, but it really hooked me in. I found it really engaging. If you're into the harsher, dirtier kind of survival kind of things, even I'm not even a crafting game guy. I actually played both this and the survivalists and compared them in a video for my channel, because I'm not a crafting guy. That stuff. Right. I played, you know, Rust and some of those other ones way back when, and ultimately went, this is not for me. And Chernobylite showed me that when there's way more to it than just that crafting survival element, then I'm into it. But when I can't play games like Minecraft, for example. Sure. I need you to point me in at least these days. Maybe when I was a kid, when I was younger, I probably would have loved making my own fun with those kind of sandbox games, but I need you to point me in a fucking direction eventually.
Give me something.
Exactly. And Chernobylite does. It gives you some interesting, difficult decisions to make. It's a lot of fun. It's definitely worth a look. I highly recommend it. I thought it was great.
Cool. Chernobylite.
Check it out, y'all.
Check it out. All right. My next game of the year is Forza Horizon 5. And let me tell you,
I did not take you for a Forza guy.
I am not. So I don't play racing games at all. And Forza is Forza Horizon specifically, number 5, is available on Game Pass, and I have Game Pass. I have an Xbox Series S, and it's got Game Pass on it, and so I'm on this Discord server with a bunch of people, and they just would not stop talking about Forza Horizon 5. Like, oh my God, it's so good. And I would see tweets about it's so good. Like, well, you know, I got Game Pass, so let's just see what it's about.
Might as well take a look.
I downloaded it, and it is, and here's the thing, folks, is I don't pay attention to racing games at all. So I didn't even know the concept behind Forza Horizon. And it's basically, it's an open world game, but you're in a car, and it's like other racing games where you get to collect all of these real cars. But the neat thing is, like, there's so much satisfaction built into the game where the map is just filled with things to do. So Horizon 5 is set in Mexico. And you're just driving around the road and be like, oh, there's a ramp, and you go off the ramp and you get points, and you hit the points, and you're like, well, you got a big point, and you spin the wheel and be like, oh, I won a car from spinning the wheel. Be like, I got a new car. And be like, well, I'm gonna take that car and I'm gonna drive in that race over there. I'm gonna drive over to the race, and then whoa, look at that, I won the race, and I get to spin the wheel again, and it's I'm exploring, you know, Aztec ruins in my car, which, let's be honest, do not explore ruins in your car.
No,
but still,
that's probably a bad idea. Yeah.
It's probably a bad idea. It is so much fun. I was sitting there after I downloaded it for hours, grinning like an idiot.
That's awesome.
It is. And so Forza Horizon 5, an unlikely pick for me to get on a Game of the Year list, because I could give two flips about racing games. It doesn't matter what the racing game is. Right. From F-Zero to this, like, stylized, realistic, I don't care. You know,
well, they're always gorgeous games. They're
always gorgeous. Yeah. That's the thing, is they're always gorgeous. I just don't necessarily have a connection to, you know, what we're doing in it.
Right.
Forza Horizon 5, just by the mere act of, like, breaking it out of the race, like, you go in and you race the races, but Be like, oh, it's just a really good. It's like, when you get into like a GTA type game,
sure,
like a GTA 5, and you just drive and the driving actually feels good on really long stretches.
Yeah.
It's the game.
Ooh.
So you can just like drive around and it's so neat. And there's different types of races. So you have the rally cars, you have the stock cars, you have drag races. Not the kind of drag racing that you are a fan of, Phil.
You're not looking fabulous.
Not looking fabulous, no.
Not throwing shade, spilling the tea. That's oh man, damn it. You see, and it plays smooth like it, because that's the thing with some of these racing games. They can be so obtuse. It's like learning a whole new way to play a game.
No, it's on my controller, it's like you pull the thing to go. This is the emergency brake. This is the brake. Go for it.
I'll be damned. That looks fun. All right, well, fuck. Is this an Xbox exclusive or?
It is I'm not sure. It's a Microsoft thing. So I think you could get it for PC or Xbox. Mm-hmm. Either through Game Pass, I believe.
Okay.
So, yeah.
I will say one of the best things about something like Game Pass. Yeah. You do have the opportunity to try something that you might not otherwise have played.
There would have been no reason for me to even consider it.
Right.
Like if everybody was talking about it and then it was like, oh, but it's $60 and I don't really care about racing games.
Who's going to risk that?
But everybody was talking about it. I'd be like, oh, it's the low price of free because I'm subscribed to Game Pass.
There you go. I've been hearing, it's like it's Game Pass is one of those things that a lot of advantages to that. Xbox is making it's thrown its weight around more than
thrown its weight around a lot now with Game Pass.
Yeah.
And Xbox, Microsoft went from like, oh, it's neat, but they don't have any exclusives, to suddenly they have a ton of exclusives. I mean, we can get into whether that's good or bad for the industry, whatever. But there's a lot of neat, cool.
It used to be that PlayStation was like, well, PlayStation's got all these exclusive games. I have to get a PlayStation.
And now Microsoft is like, yeah, like, well, all the Bethesda games, those are all ours now.
Yeah, what choice do you freaking have?
But I think it's a little bit lessened only because it's like Xbox and PC.
Right.
Whereas a PlayStation exclusive up until recently is only on the PS systems. But with, what's it, Horizon is coming out on PC. There's always every year there's rumors that Bloodborne is going to be ported to the PC.
Right.
So yeah, we'll see how all that plays out. Game Pass though, for if you have Game Pass and you're not a big racing fan, I still recommend you try Forza.
Nice. Yeah, my genre that people are often surprised I enjoy is football. So
yeah, I know you're a big college football guy.
Still waiting on that.
And I know you're just waiting for that next generation of college football games that's going to be coming out. So.
I get it. I want them to treat those kids right.
Yeah.
I want it to be done properly, but god damn it, I want that game. All right. And for something not at all like NCAA football, I'm gonna do my last. This is the last one that I have that isn't on both of our lists, and this is a quick one. This is a weird one too. Dagon. Dagon is it's a walking simulator. It's completely free. It takes like 15-20 minutes to play. You can get it on Steam. It is a retelling of an old H.P. Lovecraft story through this game, and this studio got it right. They kill it. It's beautiful. It's got incredible atmosphere. The sound design, the voice acting, all of it, the whole schmear. It's absolutely amazing. And throughout the game, there are little Easter eggs that you can find that will give you context to H.P. Lovecraft as a person and the story and where the story was coming from. You know, you're out on a boat at one point and you can find a little Easter egg that'll tell you, like, you know, H.P. Lovecraft had this relationship with the water. He hated water, and and that's why so many of the creatures.
That's why he's like, oh, the water.
Right. It's just interesting little bits. And I think the thing for Dagon that I hope is that this studio gets matched up with a really good puzzle creator. Because if the studio that makes this level of atmosphere can work with somebody who can make them some amazing old school Myst style puzzles and shit like that, that's like game of the year material for me. That's the kind of shit that I salivate over. So I look at the work of the studio that did Dagon and just like dream of the future. It's like it's you know, when you've been doing this as long as you and I have, it's hard not to see these young groups of excited, hungry game designers. Right. And you can kind of predict the future with them sometimes based on what they've done, because you've seen it over and over again. You're like, okay, you could do something with this. I've seen it happen before. I would love to see it again. Please. And so Dagon to me is kind of like this. It's like a promise wrapped around a wish, you know? Right. It's like, please do something with this. Keep going.
Yeah.
It's really cool. And again, it's totally free. It'll take you 20 minutes to play. It as a proof of concept, as basically a demonstration of like, here is what we can do. It is intensely impressive. And these kids need money, and they need some other game designers to work with. And they need to get some cool puzzle game shit out. Toot sweet. That is all there is to it. So Dagon, absolutely worth a look. And that brings us to do you have any others other than our?
No, that's okay. It.
And that brings us to the two games
to the overlap.
Yeah, the overlap section. Where Kevin and I actually agreed on things, because we never agree. We fight like cats.
We never agree. Yeah, so you want to talk about Inscription first?
Yeah, Inscription. Holy shit.
Inscription. Wow. Spoilers, maybe, probably. I don't know. Inscription, Daniel Mullins. We've actually talked about it a few times. We've mentioned it in passing it a couple times.
Yeah.
In some of our cold openings and whatnot on the show.
Yeah.
But Inscription is it's a deck builder roguelike card game.
Yeah. And with
that at the beginning, start
with that Daniel Mullins coat of paint over it, like anyone who's played Pony Island, the Hex, any of his other stuff, knows what we're talking. It's like playing a deck builder creepypasta.
Yes, exactly.
It is so weird.
It is a creepypasta. The game is basically a creepypasta. I mean, most of his games are creepypasta style.
Yeah, he does that whole. I mean, you guys talked about it on the Halloween episode with the Godzilla thing. So many of the creepypastas that are the most popular are of the genre of the game's fucking with me. You know?
Yeah. The game is haunted, basically.
Right. And that's what this is. It's weird and sad and it's like melancholy but spooky, and
there is a lot of bummer stuff that happens during the course of the game. But it's just a roguelike deck builder, you say. How could that possibly be? And let me tell you this, is I don't think I'm spoiling anything. As you said, Phil, with Daniel Mullins games, the game is not what it says on the tin.
No. There's that is just not what they do.
That is just not the that's not the genre of the game. So yeah, at the risk of getting too far down the road of twists and turns, you spend several hours, I think it was several hours of gameplay.
Oh gosh.
In playing as this roguelike deck builder. And let me tell you, just focusing on that. It's
a great deck builder.
It's a great deck builder. I would play that deck builder like this second.
By itself, it is a fun, well-designed deck builder.
That's the beauty. That's why this game is so high in my mind for one of the best games I played this year.
Yeah.
Is that Daniel Mullins created a game. It's like a game within a game. The game within a game is better than most roguelike deck builders that you're ever going to play.
Right.
That is not the game. That is only part of it.
Yeah, that deck builder that you played, that all they're doing is this is a deck builder. It's probably better than that. It's got this creepy vibe built into it. It has a fourth wall breaking kind of sensibility, a game breaking sensibility, a little bit of glitch horror, a lot of spooky pasta, a lot of creepy pasta, spooky pasta, a lot of creepy pasta elements to it, and it just so happens to be a great game. And kind of what I was talking about before with Dagon, Daniel Mullins is this guy that I've been watching, everyone's been watching. I feel like he's kind of like this amazing indie developer that has been wowing us, but there have been problems. Like Pony Island kicked ass. Pony Island was great. It had some problems. It wasn't quite there yet. And you just you look at a guy like that and go, you're gonna make something though, that you're gonna come out with something.
You're gonna blow our minds.
Absolutely.
One day.
And then the Hex comes out and you're like, I don't like this story as much, but I think it's a better game. And it's like, okay, we're still working. We're still creating a concept here. It's growing pains, basically. It's still great. It's still better than most of the indie stuff that comes out. It's just a little not quite there yet. And then you play this and you're like, you did it. This is what happens when you work hard and try and keep working at it, and this is the culmination of a lot of games that were great but flawed.
Yeah, you can see the attention to detail and attention to the craft that he put into it, and his team put into it. Because as you said, the first two games, they were good, but graphically they didn't really wow you. It
wasn't quite there yet. He was still working at his style.
Yeah, exactly. Inscription is where it really, that's his style of game really comes into its own.
Absolutely. I'm sure he's already working on his next thing. But to me, there's this feeling of like, I hope he is sitting down and having a nice long rest and, smoking a big fat cigar because he fucking earned it. It is one of the best damn indie games made maybe in the past 10 years.
Sure.
And certainly I've seen it as number one on a lot of people's lists, and it absolutely has earned it. It's definitely the best indie game that came out this year.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. The last game that we have on our list.
And this is my game of the year.
And this is your game of the year.
This is my game of the year.
Resident Evil 8 Village.
Kevin, I loved it. I love Resident Evil. They are just, God, they have so much fun making these games.
Yeah.
And it's just like, it's Resident Evil 7 just was one of my favorite things. I loved that game so much. I played through it like 4 or 5 times. I loved it. And so when Resident Evil Village was coming out, I was like, oh yeah, sure, Lady Dimitrescu, big titties. We're all excited. But
we understand.
And it was like, okay, maybe not. God, it held up. It everything that
so good.
It was just wonderful. And the horror element, the camp, and it was easily one of the scariest Resident Evils of all time.
It had the single scariest moment of any Resident Evil game ever.
I still think about it. I replayed that game a couple of months back, and the first time I played it, Emily sat with me through the whole thing, and like I said, she's not a gamer, so this is an experience for her, but it's so cinematic. She was enjoying watching it, and that scene, and everyone who's played this game knows what we're talking about.
Right.
That scene, we literally beat it, and we sat outside and just stared into the middle distance.
Yeah.
And we were like, okay, is everything, well, I don't know what's going on. And so I was playing through it again, and I got to that part, and I said to Emily, I was like, hey, I'm about to do that one bit again. Do you want to watch? And she went, kind of, actually. And she sat with me, and we knew what was coming, and we knew what was going to happen, and we still screamed at the top of our lungs and just, oh my God.
Oh, that's great.
Oh, it's so much. It's like one of the, and here's the thing. We were all excited about Lady Dimitrescu. We all loved I'm a vampire fanatic, and she was just, she fit the bill. And yes. I was super pumped about that. And she's the first person to go. I don't think that's too spoilery at this point, but she's the first boss you've beat. And then, despite the fact that you've been excited about her this whole time, the game only gets better after she's defeated.
Yeah.
And that's not throwing shade at her. She's awesome. It's just that the game keeps getting better as it goes.
I love so many elements of the game. I love the fact that the game is basically a love letter. If Resident Evil 1, the first few Resident Evil games are pretty much a love letter to George Romero.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
This Resident Evil 8 is, and Resident Evil 7 is basically like
Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Texas Chainsaw, Hills Have Eyes.
Yeah.
Last House on the Left.
That exploitation film.
Those 1970s exploitation slasher horror type movies. That was 7. 8 was Capcom's love letter to Universal horror.
Yes.
Because you have Lady Dimitrescu, who is basically your Dracula stand-in, right?
Yep.
You have Moreau, who is your creature from the Black Lagoon.
Absolutely.
You have Heisenberg, who is Frankenstein.
Yep.
And you have what's her name?
Is it Beneviento?
Beneviento.
Yeah.
Who I want to say is like maybe Invisible Man.
Yeah.
Kind of.
I'd put that one up as ghost stories. House
Invisible
on Haunted
Man
Hill.
House on Haunted Hill. Phantom of the Opera.
Absolutely, yeah.
Kind of vibe. So yeah, it's definitely those 30s, 40s, and 50s era horror films.
Yeah.
That this game really plays off of.
Yeah.
There's even, the Wolfman is, you have the werewolves in there.
Well, they're great too, by the way.
It is. Yeah. Yeah. So it's, it does have all the, the Resident Evil dumb stuff in it. Like, and that's fine.
Oh yeah. It's silly. It's got a lot of really silly, dumb stuff.
It's got such silly stuff in there.
They have to remind you every now and then. They're like, we're not Silent Hill.
No, we're not Silent Hill.
No.
This is Resident Evil. This is silly.
This is what we do.
What's funny is I haven't seen the movie, the new Resident Evil movie.
I haven't either. I want to. It's gonna be bad.
It's like an adaptation of Resident Evil 1.
Yeah.
And like 1 and 2, I think, are like put into a movie.
Oh, it's gonna be bad, but I really want to see it.
It's gonna be bad, and you know what was funny though is people are like, "Oh man, it's bad. What have it's so cheesy." We're like, do you guys not understand what made Resident Evil work?
Right, like that was the whole point. The whole thing was that it was cheesy.
Just like that, it's more in line with the tone of the games than the Paul W.S. Anderson. Too cool for school Resident Evil movies ever were.
Those games were like those movies. It's like that wasn't campy on purpose. It wasn't the same thing.
That was like, look how slick I am.
Right. Right. It was music video directing.
Yeah. It wasn't like, it wasn't the camp that Resident Evil really found its roots, planted its roots in.
Yeah.
So yeah, Resident Evil Village.
Resident Evil 7 and 8 both represent kind of like the designers being able to go, all right, we're tired of doing the same zombies. Can't we do something else? And they started it in 7, they didn't fully explain it. And in 8, they continue that theme where it's like, it's not Resident Evil like we've known in the past, but they let you know. They give you the background and go, yeah, this is still the same virus, but it's kind of different. And
it's connected. It's all connected,
but it's parallel. And I love that. I want them to keep doing that. I want them to keep surprising us. Especially with that ending.
For the lore heads, it's something like they took the stuff, the mold, and they took the from Europe, and the progenitor virus from Africa. They slap them together,
right?
And that's kind of where the T virus came from,
right?
Or like that's a real brutal summation of it.
But but for all intents and purposes,
for all intents and purposes,
without getting a chart out.
Yeah, without getting a chart out, it was just another piece in the puzzle. In like the 1940s and 50s, somebody found this thing, and it's all part of the Spencer stuff. It's Resident Evil lore. It gets twisty and turny real fast.
And it's like, how much does it? I mean, it's like, look, I get it from a lore head perspective, but I don't care. I'm here for the fun and the scares.
Just give me a good game. And I know they're dropping the numbering system now. Because
makes sense.
Resident Evil 8 was not actually called Resident Evil 8 in any documentation. It had 8 in Village, like it was written in.
It was kind of. I feel like this is the last time they'll do that. I think this was their gentle kind of like, we're weaning you off the numbers.
Resident Evil games are just gonna have subtitles now.
Right.
Moving on.
And I hope. And it's so funny to me they didn't have DLC waiting. So
because they're working on it now.
They're working on it now, so we'll get something next year.
They were like surprised at how successful it is, and we're like, why were you surprised?
The internet lost its fucking mind. I don't. Okay, but
because they had
DLC. On it.
They had DLC pretty quickly after 7.
Yeah.
And it was, but after 8, it's
weird
going to be
and different, and
it was very weird gameplay. It would, what is basically the DLC from Resident Evil 7 and Inscription are very similar.
Actually, yeah. Yeah, you're not wrong. Like they play with it. They play with you and play with the gameplay. And
what is it? You're playing blackjack. In the DLC.
Yeah. Well, and just then the escape room DLC. And
exactly.
So I'm looking forward to what they do with that. I'm looking forward to the DLC. I've played through it twice now, so I'm looking for the DLC. That was my game of the year. I remember playing it when it came out this past spring, and I was just like, unless a miracle happens, this is probably my game of the year. This is pretty much right up my alley. So,
and it was your game of the year.
Yep, worked out just fine.
Yep.
Well, before we sign off, one last little end of the year thing that I thought would be fun. We have read how many books this year? 6?
Oh boy. I have the sheet up in front of me. Let's see. We read Resident Evil: The Umbrella Conspiracy, Halo: The Fall of Reach. Well, let's just count all the Bloodborns as one.
Yeah, sure.
Far Cry Absolution, Dead Space Martyr. As of this airing, we'll only have one episode left of Bioshock Rapture,
right?
Which will come out in 2022.
Okay, so that's half a dozen books.
That is 6. That is 6 books.
Okay,
right there.
So, what would you say is your favorite book that we read this year?
Oh, that's a good question.
Yeah.
So I am going to say that my favorite book of the year is probably going to be Bioshock Rapture.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Because it actually, no, I'll say it's tied with Halo: The Fall of Reach.
Yeah.
Bioshock Rapture they both suffer from similar problems, and I'll get into that in the next episode of Bioshock Rapture,
yeah,
which
we don't want to give away the horse.
I'm not going to give away, because this is going to be coming out before the last episode of Bioshock Rapture, but at this point I have finished Bioshock Rapture.
Mm-hmm.
I think they both kind of fall into similar problems towards the end, but I think they're both so well written. They have such neat aesthetic vibes to them, whereas Halo is really good, really nails that military sci-fi type of book, and the Bioshock Rapture it does a great job parodying those dumb Ayn Rand books,
right?
You know? Right.
And blending in the world of the game itself, like it's so pretty seamless.
So probably 1 and 2, and they would probably change depending on the day.
Sure.
For me, is going to be Halo and Bioshock, and then a solid 3 is going to be Far Cry. Right.
Yeah.
I would say Resident Evil after that. And then the first 2 books of Bloodborne, and then there would be like blank space on the sheet, and then there would be the next 2 books of Bloodborne, and then Dead Space Martyr.
Yeah. The end of your list is the same for me.
Yeah.
I would say it, and it's funny because it was between Far Cry Absolution and Halo: Fall of Reach.
Sure.
And they're hard to compare because they're very, very different.
Yeah.
I think Halo: Fall of Reach is a better written book. That military sci-fi shit, it's good. And he does
structural, like in terms of like, I know what you mean. It's like, just in terms of like the amount of detail it gives you, the structure of the book, it's a robust book. You know what I mean?
Right.
It is a sturdy book. It doesn't have, it's not weak anywhere.
Right, exactly. But if I had to reread any of these books, it would be Far Cry Absolution.
Yeah.
Just the style of it, that neo-Western kind of thing. And we discussed in the review of it how it doesn't quite match tone for tone the game series, and maybe that's not such a bad thing. If I had to read another one again, though, it would have to be Far Cry Absolution. It just it matches up with my personal style, what I like, and that I'm going to get up in the morning tomorrow and start watching an old season of Alone again.
Sure.
I love I'm for a guy who doesn't play a lot of crafting
as you do
games. I love the. I'm stuck out in the woods. It's cold, and I killed a squirrel for my breakfast. And I love that. And I think it's because I'm a fat man, a fat man with a decent job. I think that's why. But I really like that aesthetic. Again, to compare it to them again, Cormac McCarthy kind of neo-Western kind of vibe. I really enjoy that. After it would be a close second with Halo, close third with Bioshock Rapture, which is just a damn well-written book. It didn't have any need to be this. Well, actually, you know what? I kind of take that back. I think if any of the games that we have, that these books have been based on, if there was any one game that needed a well-written novelization, it would be Bioshock. Yeah. So I take that back. That it absolutely needed to be good.
It does. Bioshock Rapture is doing a lot of heavy lifting, connecting the lore between the two Bioshock games,
and doing it gracefully too.
Yes, exactly.
So they're all very close together. It really it's one of those things that I look at Bioshock Rapture and Halo: Fall of Reach, and I go, those are actually better written books. But but just for me personally, I like Far Cry Absolution better. After that, I'm with
totally
you 100%
understand.
After that.
Yeah.
So we've got a list going here. I think because we've been going since June, so it's 6 months.
Yeah.
6 books, 6 months. But the next year, with some of the books we're including, I think we're going to hit way more than just a dozen books by the end of 2022. I think we got some cool shit coming up.
Yeah. We got some cool stuff on this list. We got some short boys. We're mixing it up a little bit.
Yeah.
Because we ended the year with a few long guys in a row.
Real long ones, yeah.
Yeah. So we're gonna be mixing it up with some short boys in there. So I think it's gonna be fun, and I think
it's gonna be great. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm really looking forward to seeing where PixelLit goes in 2022.
And I think I speak for us both when I say thank you guys so much for listening. This was our
absolutely.
This is our aging gamer project that some people, when they find too much gray in their beard, they go out and they start a garage band with the other dads in the neighborhood.
Look at this beard.
Yeah,
look at this beard.
And we decided to do a podcast. It's the longest project I've ever been attached to.
I think it's my longest project at this point too. Right.
And Kevin, I love you, and I love
you too.
We've been doing shit like this on and off for years now, and this is a damn successful one, if I do say so myself. And so thank you guys all for listening, and Happy New Year's.
Happy New Year, everybody. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe, or share, or whatever, and Auld Lang Syne.
Oh yeah, remember to Auld Lang Syne, where you work or bank.
Good night.
Good night.